Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What's shaking on your Wednesday, on your hump day, on your hump day? Hey now, it's hump day. So we here at the Tom Gully Show, as always, sincerely and deeply hope that you are getting the full, total, and complete amount of hump that you so desperately crave and you so rightfully deserve on this hump day. Hope everything's going great. You can go to the TomGullyShow.com, and there are 270 podcasts there for your enjoyment with famous movie stars and platinum recording artists and best-selling authors and just regular Johnny Punch Clock, Susie Housecoat types like you and I. Yeah. You can also go to paypal.me/Tom Gully Show and contribute someone, and it's always a little difficult because PayPal, you kind of have to use not your real name, but something, it's different than your screen name in here, and I'm therefore reluctant to say so-and-so, because I don't know that they want their real name out there or whatever name they have associated with their PayPal. So I keep that on the down low. I keep that mum on the QT, on the hush-hush, okay? But someone last night made an extremely generous donation. I thank them, I thank them, I thank them. And if you were to make a nice donation today, I would thank you as well. Privately, covertly, incognito on the QT, down low, hush-hush. But paypal.me/Tom Gully Show, or you can go to patreon.com/The Tom Gully Show, and it's $3 a month, and it's exclusive content that you won't see anywhere else on the internet because I'm too scared to put it on the internet because some of it's filthy. Anyway, let's see what we got here in the chat room before we get to tonight's exciting topic. Infowars says, hey, Tom, seen you were live on Twitter right before I noticed the YouTube notification. Glad you're on multiple platforms. These last few shows have been great. I've been digging these topics. Well, good. That's why we do them. Some of them have been suggestions from the listeners. And boy, did I waste my time on something. I'm not even going to tell you about it. Let's see here. I heard you guys have been having some freezing weather out there. Yeah, we did, and it was still kind of freezing today, and I didn't go out, and I desperately need to go to the grocery store. Tomorrow it will be in the low 50s, and I will go out then. It'll probably be so windy that it feels like, I don't care. At least it's not 19 or something. Reverend Wild Bill says, hey, Tom, Mr. Stone Green himself. Do I have, let me see here. I might as well get my... Do you guys know about the Stone Green thing? I'm guessing, Wild Bill, that most people do not know about the Stone Green. Oh, I haven't converted that to PDF though. Yeah. I do have one thing I could do. Sometimes I have to reconnoiter. Let me see here. Certified Stone Green. Which one of these is? I'll just use this one since it's smaller. Is that going to work? I'll go ahead and... I'm going to take it down real fast anyway, so it doesn't matter. There it is. Certified Stone Green. I am a certified Stone Green host. Let's see here. Can I get out of the way enough to certified? Yeah, the people at Not Even a Show have certified me as Stone Green, but we're not going to do that for this show. I'll get it taken care of for another show. And instead, we got the thematic from the thing here. We have a thematic from every show. I do a special themed background for because I'm classy that way. Classy. Plus, you deserve it. New cans. No, these are not new cans. These are the same old crappy cans I've been using. Hugh's here. Hey now. Hello, Hugh. Says, hey, Tom. Hey, right back at you. The lovely and talented Karen Garvey is with us. And I got to tell you, Karen has been such a wonderful supporter of this program. I'm so happy that she's here tonight. And now I got to bump my head up a little bit more. I never get this right. All right, yeah, that's probably going to have to be the good thing about it. Reverend Wild Bill, because he can't let me unveil what the frick my show's about, has to spill the beans in advance. No, I'm kidding. It's on the title of the show. I'm just kidding. But it would be nice occasionally if... let's see here. Jokerfish says, hi, Karen Garvey. Yeah, you guys are much better about the like, subscribe, share. And really, those are awesome things to do. If you would like the show, we like you to watch the show on YouTube. That's where I'm trying to get monetized. But you know what? If you're watching it on Facebook or you're watching it on Twitter, nothing wrong with that. But if you could like it and if you could subscribe here on YouTube and then you could share it or retweet it or whatever, we'd appreciate that too. Just spread the word, spread the word, spread the word. Those are all free things. Free. Doesn't cost you a penny. I, of course, as the guy that's sweating his boogers off, putting the show together, I tend to center on the money part because I'm weak. Let's see here. Tom Sir. I don't know what that means. Damn you, Bill. No, Bill didn't do nothing wrong. I'm just joking. That's the relationship I have with Bill and certain other of my guests. Okay, let me tell you about the Glenn Miller plane crash, which is all over the place, but I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Glenn Miller was one of the most popular and successful band leaders of the big band era. And during World War II, the major Glenn Miller Army Air Forces Orchestra was gigantic as well. And a huge, I don't want to say propaganda, but a huge morale booster because these guys went all over the United States to various Air Force and military bases. And then they also went over to Europe a lot while the war was going on. Okay, they weren't back behind they were on the front lines. They were performing for our fighting boys as we beat the Huns. The Huns, the Germans, the Jerrys. So you want to talk popular? Okay? Moonlight Serenade, Chattanooga Choo Choo, In the Mood. Some of these songs I'm mentioning, you might not know by name, but you know by sound. And I'll do that here in just a second. Pennsylvania 6500, which is kind of a funny joke in the movie Young Frankenstein. You know, Transylvania 6500. Anyway, Moonlight Cocktail, At Last, Elmer's Tune. Glenn Miller and his band had 16 number one hits. 16 and 69 in the top 10. Now that, way better than Elvis, way better than the Beatles. So put that in perspective for a second. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to play you a couple of things here just to get you, Reverend Wild Bill says, bite me. It's funny. Hugh says, boy, the way Glenn Miller played. Yeah, the way Glenn Miller played. I know that song. Now, let me play you a few things. Now, these are public domain. The tunes are in public domain, but the performances are not. Now, I can get transformational and fair usage and probably play some of his actual tunes. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in that trouble. But this is In the Mood, and this is a jazz version of it, only on piano. But I think when you listen to it, you will hear in your head the big band version of it. So here you are. You know the song, right? The real version's so much better. Anyway, let me see here. Public domain sounds... Alexander's Ragtime Band. Let me see. I'm going to play you just a touch of the real In the Mood by the real Glenn Miller Band. If I can get through this stupid... Ugh. Here you go. This is the real Glenn Miller Orchestra. That's the real Glenn Miller Orchestra doing In the Mood, okay? So you all recognize that. I mean, what? It's 80 years ago, I think, or something close to that. And that's them. Now, I'm going to play you Moonlight Serenade here. Now, Moonlight Serenade is another huge one that you'll recognize. This is kind of interesting one because this is being played chiefly on kazoo. So this is not a real orchestra. But you recognize the start. I mean, these are some of the biggest songs of the previous century. I mean, gigantic. This one's interesting because it's a dude with a squeeze box, and this is Moonlight Serenade as well, and a lady singing the tune. You might not recognize it as much, but I thought I would play it just because these people are so sweet. It's a real old lady and a real old dude, older than me.
I stand at your gate, and I sing you a song of the moonlight. I stand and I wait for the touch of your hand in the June night. The roses are...
And that's the thing about all these big band songs. They actually do have words. You know, it's just Elmer's tune. They do actually have words, don't you know? Let me see here. This is, I'm just going to play this. It's, the interesting thing about this is a lady that would later become a huge star. And she had to fill in. This is July 22nd, 1939. She had to fill in when the regular gal collapsed from being sick. And this is a major national broadcast. Okay, so this woman who would later become very, very, very famous, named Kay Starr, had to sit in for Marion Hutton. 16 years old, and she was flown from Memphis to New York to fill in for this lady.
I remember looking at this man. I was stunned by him. When he walked up on the bandstand, every musician walked up on the bandstand. I mean, there wasn't a few minutes in between or anything. These people knew when he got there, it was time for everybody to be there. He walked past me after I sang my first song and patted me on the head like he was the principal and I was a kid.
The National Broadcasting Company invites you to listen to Glenn Miller's music.
Moonlight Serenade. This is the way they did radio back then, man. It was magic.
Good evening, friends. Once again, a familiar theme, Moonlight Serenade, invites you to listen to Glenn Miller's music, different rhythms and melodies, by the new king of the swing trombone and ace arranger, Glenn Miller and his orchestra, playing at the breeze-swept Glen Island Casino, just off the Shore Road here at New Rochelle, New York.
See if I can find this. Let's see if I can find this chick singing. Wow, listen to these guys are cooking.
Oh, you crazy Bout.
See if I can find this young lady singing here.
They fell in love, I guess you think.
Precious pretty, I could go for it, honey, baby me. Baby me, come on and pet me, honey, baby me. You know you get me when you give me that affectionate talk. Like darling, dearie, precious pretty, I could go for itty bitty, baby me.
Anyway, hugely popular was Glenn Miller. Let me see. Whoa, look at this. Wow. I got a lot of stuff to go over before I tell you just how popular Glenn Miller was. Cans, huh? Remember those 70s synthesizers that were so heavy you likely ended up with compressed disc in your back? Great sound, though. Yeah, I mean, some of them were out into here, and they were the heavy plastic, but they had an amazing song. Rem Bill says, I think USO Club when I hear that song. Hey, if you guys really want me to go Nerd City one day on this program, I have 10,000 old-time radio programs here. And many of them are from that World War II era, and many of them were themed for the war. They were, the G.I. Jive was the name of one of the shows. They were done for the boys overseas. And so a lot of them have that USO feel to them. InfoWars is classic. I'm about to bust out the Charleston listening to it. Charleston was a little earlier than most of this stuff, but Tyler Schellenberger says, good evening. Good evening to the Quad Cities, Tyler. I was raised on his music. Mom and dad were both musical. There you go. Hey, so you know Harry James and all that good stuff. And that's how Frank Sinatra got his start. Johnny A. Brooks says, yeah, I'm a gully head. What's it to you? What's it to you is our theme show. That's our slogan for this show. I like Moonlight in Vermont, not Glenn's. No, that's not Glenn's, but it is a good song. Hello, Wild Bill. Good evening, Gully Nation, hashtag. Stacey Allen, no joke. I love this music. Awesome. Because of the Glenn Miller Band, I played woodwinds for over 14 years. There you go. Andrew's Sisters would be a good topic. So would Betty Hutton. Do I need to play that right now? Do I just need to give you a little, let's see here. Man, the video for this is incredible. I hope I don't get nailed for this. I don't think I can because it's from an old CBS radio show. It was called Command Performance. It was another one of those military shows, right? And so Command Performance was all of the GIs would get together and vote for who and what they wanted to see and hear on this show, because they would film the program and then later on show it in movie theaters. So this is Betty Hutton and Bob Hope introducing her. Murder, she said. Oh, not another pre-roll. Come on, man. Be good to daddy. Come on.
In Puerto Rico,
come on now.
We call ourselves
just one time, would you?
Boricua.
Yeah, okay. Puerto Rico, who cares?
Vibrant spirit of
come
our
on.
People.
And then it just
When
sits there at
experience
one
our
for
island,
5 seconds.
you'll find
Like
that spirit in
come on.
yourself. Live
Come on.
Boricua.
Jeez.
Well, that's fine. And now Betty is one of the...
Tell you something right now. That Puerto Rico, never going to Puerto Rico, ever. As long as I live, just because of that. Happy?
3 Flying Huttons, will you answer a slew of Command Performance requests and strafe us with that 50 caliber tune? He says murder, he says.
You guys aren't going to believe it. You're not going to believe this.
Finally found the fella, almost completely divine, but his vocabulary Larry is killing this romance of mine.
Betty Hutton.
We get into an intimate situation, and then begins this Romeo's conversation. He says murder, he says, every time we kiss, he says murder, he says, at a time like this, he says murder, he says, is that the language of love? He says solid, he says, takes me in his arms and says solid, he says, meaning all my charms, he says solid, he says, is that the language of love? He says chick, chick, you torture me, zoo, are we living? I'm thinking of leaving him flat. He says dig, dig, the jumps the old ticker is given. No, he gets no plainer than that. He says murder, he says, every time we kiss, he says murder, he says, keep it up like this and that, murder, he says, in that impossible tone, will bring on nobody's murder.
Anyway, Betty Hutton, murder, he says. It's from the time. It's so awesome. The person that wanted Andrews Sisters, I immediately thought of the Hutton sisters and Betty Hutton because she was so awesome, and I love that song. I love that song because of all the slang. You know, I use a lot of 40 slang when I talk. I mean, a lot. Like, I'm always telling people that'll be Jake. You know, what do you think about we do this? I think that's Jake. Or Jackson. I call people Jackson all the time. They don't understand. There's always Tommy Dorsey. Sure. Anyway, the Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy of Company B. So, anyway, back to my good friend, Glenn Miller. Let's just put that up next. The Glenn Miller Army Air Force Orchestra was actually, so you had Glenn Miller, and he was a major. You know who his commanding officer was? A big British movie star that some of you may have heard of. He was in the Guns of Navarone, had a major hand in a bunch of things that happened in World War II, if you really look into his background, and that's David Niven. So David Niven was his commanding officer, and at one point in 1944, late 1944, he ordered Glenn Miller to fly from London to Paris for an appearance overseas in Paris. Now, Miller had been delayed. His flight had been delayed several times, and he became impatient by all these delays, so that when he learned when this lieutenant colonel that he knew would be flying not on December 14th, when he was originally scheduled to fly, but the next day on the 15th, again, there was a delay, he hitched a ride with this guy, okay? And he hitched a ride with the guy in this particular aircraft. Now, Glenn Miller didn't really have the authorization to board a flight like this. His entire orchestra was going the regular way on a transport plane, following, all the rules. Glenn Miller, it's not that the flight was not authorized. The flight was authorized, but he wasn't authorized to be on it. So he didn't report the fact that he was hitchhiking on this particular aircraft, so nobody really knew where he was. So the Army Air Force and the Royal Air Force were flying combat missions and were shepherding transport planes that day. And his plane, this one here, a UC-64, took off with these very important passengers in it and sort of flew at the tail end of all of these transports and combat planes in the very back of them, and they were never seen again, ever. Never seen again. Unfortunate thing, the Battle of the Bulge, which, for those of you who know anything about World War II, one of the biggest battles of World War II, started the very next day. So nobody even realized he was missing until 3 days later, at which point a search and investigation was ordered. Meanwhile, Glenn Miller's regular unit, what we call his regular unit, his orchestra, had taken their scheduled flight, and they made it safely to where they were going, okay? Now, because of the fact, incidentally, this is how popular he was, he got all these platinum records, because of the fact, by the way, he liked to smoke a lot of cigarettes. This band that he had, this orchestra, the Army Air Force Orchestra, Glenn Miller's Army Air Force, Major Glenn Miller's Army Air Force Orchestra, this was not a band that wouldn't announce where they were playing. No, their performances were huge morale boosting things. And they were broadcast back to the United States because they were playing for our boys on the front lines. And so his morale boosting band had scheduled appearances for Christmas. These stuff's happening in, the middle of December in 1944. So Christmas, New Year's, other dates. And therefore, his disappearance eventually simply had to be announced to the public at large. And he was announced missing during that time. World War II was a pretty well assumed fact that he had died or was missing in action. And he was declared dead a year and a day after his disappearance, which was the practice during the Second World War. If someone was missing in action, they were declared dead a year and a day later. He was awarded the Bronze Star in March of 1945. The 8th Air Force Board of Inquiry in England determined that the plane went down over the English Channel due to human error, mechanical failure, and weather. Remains of the aircraft have never been found. And if we can go back to the aircraft, this particular aircraft was not like amazingly sturdy. It wasn't like a combat plane or something. It was a light transport plane. So it is probably more susceptible to destruction if it did, in fact, crash into the sea. Many theories of what actually happened to the plane. Due to low visibility, there's a lot of conjecture about what happened to this plane. Some people believe the visibility was low, and therefore the plane was flying at a very low altitude behind a bunch of those other planes, as I mentioned, combat planes, bombers, etc. So because it was December, when the fuel lines froze, it gave the plane very little time to react, to switch to another fuel tank, or to do anything to mitigate a loss of fuel. If you're way up in the sky, you can tilt things around, you can shake the plane, you may have a chance. But when you're low to the ground, apparently the pilot would have had about 8 seconds to react to what had happened. And due to the light materials of the plane construction, it disintegrated, nothing ever found. Apparently the UC-64 was susceptible to its fuel intakes icing over. So another theory is that the plane was shot down by Allied forces by mistakes. There's speculation that a bombing raid being conducted by the Allies was going on, and those planes were going out while Miller's plane was coming in, and then it may have been hit by a bomb or had to dodge enough things that it lost control, and that's due to the fact that no one kind of knew they were right there. There is one conspiracy theory that suggests he was assassinated after General Eisenhower sent him on a secret mission to negotiate a surrender from Nazi Germany. Glenn Miller, apparently fluent in German due to his upbringing. There's another conspiracy theory that suggests that he actually did make it to Paris, but he died of a heart attack in a house of ill repute. His own brother, Herb, theorized that Miller disappeared on his own because he was suffering from cancer. His brother had said many times that he was getting extremely thin and not well, and of course he loved them cigarettes. So that's never been proven. His brother himself died in 1987 before he could really clear up, his exact feelings on the matter. Lastly, there's the theory that the Germans shot down the plane, but given the stronghold that the U.S. military had in the skies in that area and during that part of the war, that's super unlikely. However, there's some people claiming to have German documents indicating they shot down the famous band leader. Now, there's a guy, and when I research these things, there's always a guy that thinks he's the expert. Now, this dude's not part of the military. He's not anybody official. He's just looked into it a lot. His name's Dennis Sprague, and boy, does he think he knows what happened. There's nobody that can tell him any different. Every single article I looked at, this guy had waded into. but there's a lot of other books written about it. And whenever I see one of these blowhard guys, I'm like, look, you may have a theory. It may indeed be a really good theory, but when you try to make yourself famous because of something like this, it's like Dennis Sprague. I've never heard your name anywhere else. It's not like anybody's approaching you for any other kind of investigation. So anyway, that's the story of what happened to Glenn Miller, who, because of dying in military service, is buried at Arlington National. He's received the Bronze Star. So there you are. Only 40 years old. Let's see here. The Hippodrome Ballroom. Yes, of course. The legendary Hippodrome Ballroom. Yes. Accept no imitations. Let's see here. Glenn is on the mothership with Elvis. Only Glenn's got more top 10 and top number 1 hits. Remember, I heard the plane was taken out by friendly fire. Well, that's part of that bombing raid thing that I was mentioning, is that the big armada of planes was going out, both British and U.S., and that they were flying at a low altitude and weren't really on anybody's quote-unquote radar, and that may have been taken down by friendly fire. Now, Dennis Sprague said there's no way that happened. There are some actual filed reports by the Royal Air Force that indicate there was a plane underneath where they were bombing, but it was at a time, it just doesn't jive from a scheduling standpoint, according to Dennis Sprague. And we don't want to argue with Dennis Sprague about Glenn Miller's plane. Who knows what happened? Bet Glenn does. Yes, I'm sure he was not in the mood for that. In the mood, Let's see here. He died 10 years before I was born. Well, he was, everybody's got a number of years he died before they were born. I mean, that's hey, there's Joey Z, the legendary Joey Z. How you doing, Joey? In the mood? No, he was not in the mood for that. He was definitely not in the mood for that. But you guys know all of his songs, even to this day. That's how popular Glenn Miller was. Anyway, that is the story of what happened to Glenn Miller. By the way, if you really want to watch it, it's relatively historically accurate. The Glenn Miller story, starring Jimmy Stewart. It is. So Joey says he's doing fine. Thanks for asking. Anytime, Joey. Anytime. Karen Garvey says, hey, Joey C. He was born December 44, I was 54. Tough crowd. Well, yeah, I mean, I was May of 63. I mean, we all got to, that's not, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say. I really don't. But, yeah, I mean, Glenn Miller. Let me see if I can find some more. Let's see. Glenn Miller speaking. Speaking. I mean, come on. Who did more with a trombone than, Glenn Miller? All right, here we go. Last show, the Moonlight Serenade series, before he went off to join the U.S. Army, like so many of the big stars of Hollywood and elsewhere did back in the day. This is actually Glenn Miller with his farewell before going off to service. On September 24th, 1942, Glenn Miller played his final show on the Moonlight Serenade series on CBS Radio at the Central Theater in Passaic, New Jersey, and here he is. 2 weeks later, 38-year-old Glenn Miller reported for duty with the United States Army.
Naturally, we're very reluctant to give up our Moonlight Serenades after such a pleasant association with Chesterfield for such a long time. But since I
Chesterfield was a very popular brand of cigarettes. And cigarettes really sponsored the majority of about it. It was cigarettes, soap, and like drugstores and stuff. But cigarettes were a huge sponsor of everything on the radio back then.
I got a date with Uncle Sam coming up. I can sincerely say I'd rather have Harry James take over than anyone I know. He's got a swell sponsor, great product, and with Helen Forrest and that band of his, I know he's going to do a wonderful job.
Harry James, one of the other major band leaders of the era, and I believe had married Betty Grable for a while.
Sounds to me like a right combination. So next Tuesday, it'll be Harry James.
Captain Miller, speaking for the folks that make Chesterfields, I'm sure everyone agrees that you're doing a mighty fine thing in joining the Army. A lot of good luck to you, Glenn.
Thank you very much, Larry. It makes me feel a little sad to leave Marion, Tex, Skip, Modern Airs, this wonderful gang of boys in the band, and all our friends listening. But there's a lot of swell guys in the outfit I'm going in, and maybe all of us can get together again after this thing is over. In the meantime, I'll see you all in the Army, and we'll say goodbye the best way we know how.
And then he played Moonlight Serenade, which was, of course, one of his biggest and most popular hits.
Number one trumpeter Harry James and his Chesterfield music makers will be on hand to entertain you. Same station, same time. In the meantime, remember to make your next pack Chesterfield. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You can't imagine how popular these shows were. You just can't. Okay, hold on. You just can't imagine how popular these shows were, man. You really can't. The people would just, line these ballrooms. They'd be packed. They'd be packed even if they weren't broadcast. But because of the fact they were broadcast, they were just incredible. Let's see here. People, for some reason are excited to tell when they were born. Let's see, you're killing me. Joey saying hi to Karen there. I'm a May of 63er. Well, good. We both are. Bonami. Yes, did they sponsor anything? I don't know. That's the sound when Frankenstein came alive. Well, as you know, that's the sound when my headphone jack comes out of the thing that it's in, and then the sound goes from the speaker into the microphone and creates feedback, which is the rebroadcast of a non-broadcast signal. Ta-da! Now, why doesn't everybody tell me when they were born, when they first heard about feedback? So yes, that's the. Let me see if I can find a jive. GI Jive. Let's just see if I can find GI Jive on. Let's see. Show. Coca-Cola had a show called GI Jive. Yeah, GI Jive was a 15-minute radio program transmitted by the Armed Forces Radio Service for entertainment of the soldiers in World War II. Its initial frequency was 5 days per week, later increased to 6 days a week. It was included in a group of programs proposed for production on the the Armed Forces Radio Service initial schedule. Command Performance, that show that we just saw Betty Hutton performing on, and Mail Call used a disc jockey format with someone playing popular recordings of the day. And then Command Performance and Mail Call broadcast live performances by popular entertainers like, of course, Bob Hope and Betty Hutton. Okay, so GI Jive initially featured a DJ for each broadcast. Some were civilian celebrities, while others were servicemen. In May of 1943, however, the format changed to having one regular host, Martha Wilkerson, who was known on the air as G.I. Jill. And she was probably the most popular performer on the Armed Forces Radio Service, and certainly the one who made the biggest impact on the troops' morale. So it was a simple formula, a collection of record requests, some cheerful banter from G.I. Jill, occasional interviews with celebrities such as Bing Crosby, Frank Sinatra, and Dinah Shore. But it was the personality of G.I. Jill that made the program. She had a distinctive, charmingly reedy voice, and she was, to quote one listener, warm, affectionate, intimate, perfect for the homesick servicemen far from home. To the GI, she was the girl back home. She had a nice homey touch. Let me see if I can find you just a little bit of G.I. Jive with Martha Wilkerson. Let's see, and we can listen to a little. Man, I could do shows on old-time radio for forever. And I know the sponsors. That's when you say Bon-Ami. I'm sure they sponsored something, but I don't remember what they sponsored. Because Jack Benny was sponsored by Jell-O, Grape Nuts, and then, of course, Lucky Strike. And, oh, wow. Let's see here. 16 minutes going to be on the Shuley Network, the replayables. So we got to get out of here at some point in time. G.I. Jive, Martha Wilkerson. Let's just see what I can find here. I'm rolling the dice on YouTube. Okay. 1940s G.I. Jill's G.I. Jive show. Here we go. You play a pre-roll on this.
We've received a barrel of requests from the Pacific Theater for a certain well-known party stationed in Seattle. And we think she should introduce herself.
Here's Jill and the G.I. Jive.
Hi, you fellas. This is G.I. Jill with G.I. Jive. Sort of a special edition today, fellas, in answer to your requests. Just time for two things. A favorite tune and a quick reminder to send me a picture of you. That's right. A picture of you from my Pin-Up Boy collection. Don't forget, huh? Now here's that tune I was talking about. Hallelujah.
Hey, that's a little G.I. Jill. By the way, hey, we just had somebody come in here that's happy to be here. Happy to be here. You're more than welcome to come back, but we're going to put you in a timeout. You have to know that name, your screen name. That's not going to fly here, man. That's just not. I'm not mad at you, but you need to go change that name if you want to come back. I'm sorry. You're just in a little timeout. You're not kicked out for forever, but... You come on. You know who you're dealing with here. You can't do that here. I'm sorry. You can hear that program is on a 33 record. You got that. Ajax sponsors shows back then. Yeah, Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Poor taste, man. Yeah, let's not make a big deal out of it. I'm sure it's just a whatever. A mature hour. They were groovy cats. Let's see if I can find some more G.I. by request. G.I. Jill. Here's another one. Let's see here. Let's see what this one will do. JC says, "Okay, sorry.
Brain health supplements?
You're fine.
Join Rita's 30-day challenge and see the results for
JC, you're
yourself.
fine. Don't sweat it.
Days to support
You're okay."
This time we're going to begin with a letter from 43 Foxhole buddies, somewhere in New Guinea. That's right, 43. Come. Anyone knows by request can show them some scenes at the University of Kentucky where they trained, and a few shots of Lexington, Kentucky, which most of them feel is sort of a second hometown. Well, 43 names is a lot of names, so here's your request, fellas.
Here's the main street of Lexington with a glimpse of the Phoenix Hotel, where the Army still quarters GIs in training at Kentucky U. And here's the old Keith Chop House. After hours or while on pass, the enlisted men continue to drop in for a glass of beer and to pass the time with the girls who serve the light and mellow brew.
Ready, men. 1, 2, 3.
Here's the line lineup from left to right. Jimmy Durante, Alan Jenkins, Sterling Holloway, Hugh Herbert, William Gargan, Ed Brophy, Andy Devine, Alan Hale, Robert Benchley, and Arthur Treacher.
Okay, these were requests on the part of servicemen. So anyway, don't forget to drink your Ovaltine. That's right. What about Lux presents Hollywood? How about CAMELS? Camels, the smoke that's first in the service. I could go on and on and on and on and on. I know all this stuff is in my head about old-time radio. Lucky Strike, so firm, so full, so fully packed. Arthur Treacher, the fish and chips guy. Yes, Arthur Treacher, the fish and chips guy, but he was actually famous in Hollywood for playing British butlers before he started the fish and chips franchise. Video playback has some reverb in it. That's because my microphone's open, and it has to be open for me to talk about it. So it's transformative, so I can do fair use, and blah, blah, blah. So, yes. Thanks, JC. You're welcome. But anyway, yeah, man, look, we had Pat Tillman, obviously, go off to war, but these kids today, most people, aren't aware of how many of the big stars of Hollywood did during the service. Now, yes, truthfully, there were a lot of them that weren't necessarily in combat units and things of that nature, that were there to do morale boosting, things of that nature. But there were a lot of them that were actually serving. JC says, I got so sick from Arthur Treachers. They've always had them in New York's White Castles back in the day. In Indianapolis, the only place you could get fish and chips like that was at Arthur Treacher's when I was growing up. So, and then Long John Silver's came along, and Arthur Treacher's kind of went the way of the, dodo bird. But one thing you'll find about actors from like the late 40s and 50s, if you really start looking into them, like Lee Marvin, or even Eddie Albert, or Captain Kangaroo. Okay, these dudes served in major combat zones. Now, that's before they became famous, obviously. But a lot of the guys, if you look them up from that era, man, oh man, people say that they never saw anyone braver than Captain Kangaroo. Sergeant Bob Keesham, I think was his name or something at the time, but that he would go into gunfire and do just super heroic stuff all the time. There's a story that gets around once in a while that Fred Rogers was like a commando and Mr. Rogers. No, not true. But a lot of those dudes were. Eddie Albert was a pilot of a landing craft at D-Day. So he was taking those dudes up to the shore, going back, getting some more, taking them back, going getting some more, taking them back. So, let's see here. Do I regret taking DMT? What's DMT? I doubt that I regret it because I don't think I've taken it. I'll try and look it up here. Diethyltryptamine. It's a very strong psychedelic found in animals and plants. I don't believe I've taken that. I don't. In fact, I'm quite certain I've never taken that. So, Very strong, supposedly. Yeah, I've never taken that. Sorry. Never have taken that. I've never taken that. What's that got to do with Rogan? Rogan does it. He's a retard. So I don't know what that has to do with the people in World War II that were... It doesn't matter. But anyway, a lot of those folks did serve. And Glenn Miller wasn't messing around. You know, he was actually flying over in combat areas and everything else to perform for the troops. And I have a whole bunch of episodes of Command Performance and GI Jive and whatnot. I'm tempted to go get them, but maybe I'll have them for tomorrow. I'll have them here. And I can go through all the radio that I have. Because one year for Christmas, which is kind of stupid, let's see, you're lucky I'm not a mod. I'd give you a verbal warning. No, there's nothing wrong with what he asked me. It's fine. It's fine. For Christmas, not for Christmas, for my birthday one year, and this is back around 2000, 2002, it was before Internet Archive had every single old-time radio program you could just listen to whenever you want. You used to have to collect them, and you used to have to get them from collectors. I used to do a show in the mid-'80s on a radio station I worked at called The Golden Age of Radio Theater that was on vinyl. Well, you could, if you sort of looked on the back of these vinyl records, there were collectors clubs that would have them on, that would have episodes on cassette tape. And people would sort of trade them, and, you know, you give me some of yours, I'll give you some of mine, and go back and forth, and they would trade these. And as time went along, the better recordings would survive. You could also get, as time went along, you could get your own vinyl with certain famous episodes of various radio shows. And for whatever reason, I got into an old-time radio discussion group online and found this guy that for, I think it was $2-3 a CD. It was just loaded with MP3s of whatever show you wanted. And I think I spent a couple $100. I think I spent about $200 with that guy. And he sent them all to me, and I still have them. There's 10,000 that I have. And so I have all of the Great Gildersleeve and all of Jack Benny and all of Fibber McGee and Molly and all of The Shadow and all of Seal Test Variety Theater and all of Lux Radio Theater and all of Kraft Music Hall and all of the Pepsodent Hour and all of Abbott and Costello and all of this Chase Sanborn Hour. And I could go on, but I won't. Yeah, who knows what evil lurks in the minds of men? The Shadow knows. Lamont Cranston. Lyndon says, what's your thoughts concerning Audie Murphy? Well, he's awesome. Eddie, you got nothing to apologize for. You're fine. You're fine. Terry says, it's so sad seeing boxes of great vinyl albums of older music going for $1 at an auction. Not anymore, they're not. If they are, buy them, because the kids are snapping them up. They're just snapping them up. Hey, normally I would keep talking and stuff, but the replayables is going to be on the Shuley Network in about 2.5 minutes. And Chris Abels and those guys have been so good to me. I don't want to get into their time. I'd love it if you guys went all over to the replayables on the Shuley Network. Somebody's going to hurl on that show. That I can guarantee you. Somebody's going to hurl. If you could like, subscribe, or share the program, that would do us great things. You could go to paypal.me/Tom Gully Show and give us a few bucks. We'd love that too. Same thing for patreon.com at the Tom Gully Show /the Tom Gully Show. And however else you want to support it, that would be great. We'd love all of you guys for being here. And the only thing left to say, really, at this point, this has been kind of a schizophrenic little show here today. The only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.
of my pants. Don't you know I got a little secret?